So they got this fella named Roger McGrath, and he's an American historian who wrote an article that goes something like this. I learned from a young age that tens of thousands of Irish were enslaved and shipped to the West Indies to labor and die on sugar plantations. And they got a lot of historians around the world that share that same sentiment, that they had white slaves in Barbados. So is that true? In order for us to answer this question, we gotta go back to some of the most terrible times in Barbadian history. And no, I don't mean the last DLP administration, I mean the terrible times of the 1600s. In 1649, English political leader Oliver Cromwell dominated Ireland and took over the country. In doing so, many of the Irish that were prisoners of war because they were seen as threats to the state, or poor people that were victims of dispossession, were sent to Barbados to do forced labor. However, many white people came to Barbados willingly, looking for opportunities to work. Each person was contracted for up to 7 years, but most of them dead before then, but we ain't get there. The question is, were they slaves? No, they were not slaves, or at least what we call a slave today. So they got a few differences that we gotta know. So one thing we know is that these white people were contracted to work for up to 3 to 7 years, when African slaves were slaves for life. Secondly, any white baby that was born from Irish parents was born free. However, as we know, if you were born from an African slave, you were a slave for life. But bear in mind though, that just because they had white skin, you think that them is in Westmoreland eating wingdings? No, things was hard for them too. As a matter of fact, documents and records show that discrimination towards them was just as bad for the African slaves by the English ruling class. For example, there's a case documented in the minutes of the Council of Barbados in the 1650s, where a white fella gets sentenced 120 lashes for only making sport at an English woman. To be more specific, he says that he wished that the blood of a certain English woman was flavoring his meat. He get 120 lashes for that? Imagine if he had thought about she mother. And there was another case that went something like this. Ordered that Daniel Halsey, an Irishman, be forthwith set in ye pillory, there to remain for ye of 2 hours, for slandering of justice and scandaling ye inhabitants of this island. And for any boy that don't know what a pillory is a wooden framework set in a public location that's lock off your head and hands, and any boy that passing can pelt rocks at you, spit on you, put the fingers up you, spit on you. So yes, the 1600s were brutal, and many of the Irish died due to disease. But there are also some Irish descendants that have done very, very well for themselves. So that is part of Barbados. So that's part of Barbados' dark past, and the only thing that I see white people so disgruntled now is if Harbor Lights run out of drinks. But what do you think? You may know something that I ain't say in this video. Leave a comment, question, query, or cuss word down below.